Hey everyone, Dylan with Property Doc. Today I'd like to talk about a common point of contention between home buyers, home builders, and home inspectors. And that's going to be statements like, that's not the code, we built to code, or that's not a code violation. These are common responses to home inspection findings, leaving home buyers feeling confused and frustrated when they're stuck between a he said and a she said situation, and they don't really know who to believe. And the truth of it is, those statements are a bit misleading because home inspectors are not coming to report code violations. There will be a lot of overlap between our findings and what you might find in the code, but that's not our purpose when we show up. And just because it's not a code violation does not mean that it's not a problem. And so I'd like to first start by defining the purpose of the code. And so I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to go straight to the source. This is from the 2018 Virginia Residential Building Code, where it states, provided that buildings and structures should be permitted to be constructed at the least possible cost consistent with recognized standards. And so this is really what I'm trying to drive home here, least possible cost. So really, when a builder says that they've built the house to code, they're indirectly saying that they've built the bare minimum that can be enforced by the county or city, as opposed to at best practice or maximum that they could have. Now, I do understand that builders have costs, and some builders are going to focus on minimizing costs to bring a more affordable house to market. But either way, they probably don't advertise that we build bare minimum houses. So that's not a good argument against a home inspection finding, especially when what we're pointing out is actually a problem. Some things that go in a report may not be a problem as much as just a better way of doing things, but a lot of what we report are problems. That's the reason we're putting them in the reports to begin with. So to drive the point home, the code is a prescriptive-based method of building to ensure minimum acceptable outcomes. That's it. So additionally, many home inspection reports are going to contain recommendations that are consistent with local codes. Now, a home inspector is not authorized by the state of Virginia to report code violations on houses. We can get in trouble for doing that. And it's really not what we're there to do anyways. I would also say that very few home inspectors have code-specific training, and they're not going to be capable of identifying every code issue that may or may not exist with your house as well. But home inspectors will report problems that oftentimes are also code violations because the codes come from what we've learned over a span of time, observing how people are interacting with buildings and how different various environmental factors affect them. And so codes are iterative. We make changes to them every 3 years or so based on what we found. And so home inspectors are also reporting things based on what we've learned as a profession and what the trades have learned throughout the decades. So there are also cases where the builder may be claiming that something is up to code, but it's actually not compliant. But we can't tell you that as home inspectors. So we have to kind of keep our mouths shut on that and just stick to the facts. So I'll give you an example. We're going to go back to the code. Chapter 5, flooring. Just a second. 507. Going to exterior decks, and we're going to go specifically to decking. So in table R507.7, we're going to find the maximum joist spacing for decking. So this is the decking is going to be the top part of the deck. This is what you're standing on, the boards that you're standing on. 1.25 inch thick wood is the typical dimension you're going to find for deck boards, sometimes called 5/4 board. Spacing, assuming that it's perpendicular to the joist, which is how they're usually built, can't be more than 16 inches for the joist, meaning the joists are no more than 16 inches apart when you're using this dimension of deck board. Now, if the joists were 20 inches apart, that is a code violation. However, the way that a home inspector the way that a home inspector is going to report an issue like that might be worded something along the lines of the deck joists were spaced further apart than allowed for the deck boards. This could result in sagging, premature deterioration, or failure of the deck boards. And we'd recommend that the builder or deck contractor correct the issue. So you can see how we're still pointing out the issue, but instead of saying this is a problem because the code says so, we're telling you why. And so that's a key difference in the wording. Home inspectors are also likely to find issues that are not addressed by the codes at all. Thinking like incidental damage or adverse conditions on the property, poor workmanship, malfunctioning equipment. So some examples of these that I've seen on inspections might include mechanical damage to the roof coverings, mold growth on structural members, construction designs that are just poorly designed for managing water, flashing not installed properly that's prone to leaking, a damaged furnace that's blowing exhaust fumes into the home. There's, to my understanding of code, there's nothing in code that really addresses those kinds of things. That's why we come out there and find them for you. Another talking point for the home inspection over a code inspection: installation methods that are used with certain systems, they're often not compliant with the manufacturer's instructions, although they might not be specifically addressed in the code. So the home inspectors are frequently seeing problematic installation methods that are at risk of leaking, but might not be a violation of the code, especially in the last few years where we've had the severe labor shortages, and a lot of these shortages have been prolonged in the trades for a long time. We're just not finding the quality of work, and it doesn't even, it's not always price point of the house that really makes the difference. I've seen these issues on 7-figure houses and houses that are much more affordable. It's kind of across the board. So I give you a specific example. If we look at fiber cement siding, that's commonly known by the brand name Hardy Plank, and I'm going to actually pull that up too. I had this one ready to go and I didn't. Not the one I was looking for. Try that. Got it. Okay. Page 19. On these installation instructions. Penetrations. So James Hardy recommends for penetrations in the building envelope, such as hose bibs and holes an inch and a half in diameter or larger, such as dryer vents. You could also think about range hood vents here, receptacles, all kinds of penetrations in the siding. Every time you do that, you end up with an area that's just, it's difficult to get it sealed well. And so their proposed solution here is this backer blocking right here that you install first, and then you mount your vent to the surface of this. That allows you to install Z flashing and detail this in a way that's going to perform better for keeping out water and air in the long term. But all the time on houses, I am not seeing this, at least not on every penetration. And more frequently what I'm seeing is just a vent run straight through the wall. So more frequently, I'm seeing a vent just run straight through the wall, and then they run a bead of caulk around it and call it a day. And that's just not reliable. In the long run, that's very likely to leak air. When you have air leakage, you're going to have moisture created where the hot and cold air mix. And of course, you also have a chance of just rainwater getting into those penetrations and rotting the wall structure. These are not good ways to detail the house, but is it addressed specifically in the code? I don't think so. And that's based on, again, referencing the code. So let's take a look at what the code has to say about, excuse me, wall envelopes. My little toolbar is blocking the tab. There we go. Okay. Wall coverings, exterior coverings. Okay, right here, R703.1.1, water resistance. The exterior wall envelope shall be designed and constructed in a manner that prevents the accumulation of water within the wall assembly by providing a water-resistant barrier behind the exterior cladding, blah, blah, blah. You can read. But my point being, that doesn't really say whether or not the code is satisfied. Or based on what we're reading here, it's not clear if the way that they're detailing it satisfies the code. I could see an argument that it does. But even in the event that that does satisfy the code, it's against the manufacturer's instructions, and it's not designed in a way that's going to perform well in the long run. These are things that homeowners should know. So, you know, I think I've made my point about the codes at this point. There's a lot of overlap between a home inspection and codes. There's also a lot that's not really tied to codes. And home inspectors exist in this void where we can't inspect for code compliance, but we still risk missing problems or failing to deliver useful report observations without at least understanding the codes that hold the builders accountable. And so what's Property Doc doing about this? Well, we're always iterating. So what I mean by that is that we treat our report templates as living documents. We're constantly making changes and adding in more information where it counts. So through our experience inspecting newly constructed homes, we've learned to anticipate the pushback that we're going to get from the builders, and we try to preempt it as much as we can. Here's a few things that we're doing to deliver more value to our clients. We complete code-focused courses from the International Code Council. We research current systems and components for best installation practices. We hyperlink manufacturers' instructions and reports to support our recommendations. We bolster our report comments with graphic illustrations to show correct solutions. And we communicate why there is a problem and what might happen as a result. So over time, these value drivers are going to increase in potency as we continuously fine-tune our service to perfectly match the needs of our new construction clients, or at least that's what I hope. And I look forward to working with anyone that does have a new house. I always encourage you, get the inspection. I saw some NAR data not long ago, said that 84% of new home buyers get their home inspection. So, don't be fooled. Don't think that people are waiving their home inspections on new construction on a regular basis. It's 1 in 7, and those 1 in 7 really shouldn't be doing it either. Way to look at a home inspection fee. Yes, it's an expense, maybe not as cheap as you want it to be, but look at it more as an investment. The houses are not cheap. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these homes. A home inspector can regularly come in and find thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars worth of work that needs to be done or improved, even on a new house. So the return on investment, if you want to put it that way, for all those costs that you save yourself as a homeowner by catching them before they're your problem, it's multiples greater than our fees. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Happy to help any way I can.